You're listening to My Evolved Life, a podcast that simplifies health and fitness and helps you maximize your life. My name is Vuna Win, and I'm the creator of the Evolution Training System. We're so lucky to be living in the information age, meaning it's easier than ever to access information and find answers to any questions you may have. But isn't it confusing when you read information that's conflicting, or worse yet, just sounds wrong? I'll be sitting down with industry professionals to give you clarity and leave you with tangible actions you can take immediately to improve your physical, mental, and psychological health. On today's episode, I had Tish Duffy, an online coach with 25 years of industry experience, and we talked about how to create healthy goals, habits, and routines for long-term success. We talked about things like extrinsic versus intrinsic goals, how to create manageable and achievable goals, and how thinking about your health today has long-term impacts. It was such a raw and passionate conversation. You're gonna love it. I loved it. Today's guest is Tish Duffy. Tish is an online trainer with 25 years of industry experience, and she's the owner of Strong Bodies by Tish. Tish has been recognized by Impact Magazine as both a top trainer and a top instructor. Needless to say, Tish has a lot to share with us today. So Tish, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Honestly, with your 25 years of experience, I know we're to get into a lot of stuff today.
We probably will, yes.
So over the past 25 years, I'm certain that you've seen and you've learned a lot about the industry.
Yes.
So there's a lot of different directions that we can take this conversation in today. But given that the new year is right around the corner, and in fact, by the time that we air this episode, we're going to be into the new year.
Okay.
Resolutions are going to be top of mind for a lot of our audience and viewers. So as much as possible, I like to keep this conversation around creating healthy goals, mindsets, habits, and routines. But before we actually get into that, why don't we officially introduce yourself to the audience? Who is Tish? And let us know a little bit about your 25 years in the industry.
Okay. Well, I walked into, at the time, it was called Lindsay Park Sports Center. I was about, probably 17 years old. I walked in and I was just absolutely mesmerized by the space, by the energy, by the sounds, by the smells, by how humid. I just loved everything about it. And I thought to myself, I would like to come here every single day. And obviously, I was thinking about what I was going to be taking in university. I was kind of in that frame of mind. Always wanted to be in some kind of fitness realm, but wasn't sure. My family was very adamant that I get a degree. So the minute I walked into the Talisman Center, I knew that I wanted to be educated so I could basically be there for the rest of my life or for as long as I could. So that's what I did. I went to the University of Calgary, received it's called a kinesiology degree. It was funny, 2 years in, the first 2 years they called it a phys ed degree, and then halfway through, now this is how long it was. When I first started, the first 2 years, it was called a physical education degree.
So it's changed quite a bit.
It has.
Okay.
And I think it was just, you would tell people you're taking phys ed in school and they would almost laugh and ask you how your basketball class was. And so I think they recognized that it needed to be, because it's a difficult degree. There's a lot of science and biology, and there is some stuff yes, there's activities, of course, but so they changed it to kinesiology halfway through my degree, which is great. It definitely increased the professionalism and the credibility, I think. So finished my degree, and in the middle of that degree, I actually started as a trainer at the Lindsay Park Sports Center, which was very unusual at that time of like 25 years ago, probably even more now. It was very difficult to be a trainer because there was just not a lot of trainers out there. People weren't hiring trainers. There was no such thing as someone having a personal trainer back then. It was only for the very special elite. It was expensive, and it just really wasn't something that people were doing. So as a result, because there was not that much of a demand, there wasn't a lot of trainers. Now there were, but just not like there is now. So I kind of went through the back door, squeezed in the middle of my degree, which was extremely amazing. Normally you would start as like a attendant, cleaning machines, spotting people, supporting people in the weight room, but I kind of snuck right in. I think that they acknowledged that I was passionate, I knew the form, I was getting educated, and they took me under their wings instantly. So I actually spent 10 years at the Talisman Center.
Wow.
Or at the time it was, I think it went Talisman Center, now it's called Repsol Center.
That's
so
correct,
it has changed a few times. To me, it's still Lindsay Park. And I spent many years of my life there. It was a great facility, great people, great energy. Every person was welcome there. It was just fantastic. I love the humidity in the winter because it's so dry here in Calgary.
Yeah.
It was a nice treat. In the summer, not so much, but the winter, it was great. And then after 10 years of, as a trainer, it gets demanding, it gets tiring, not just physically, but mentally as well. I was teaching fitness classes as well. I took a break. I went to Europe for a year, took a little bit of a hiatus, but then I realized when I was away that I really missed it. And I realized back then that although I wasn't making the money I thought I was going to at this point in my career, it was something that I was just never going to be able to leave. It's the only thing that I've ever known, and it's the only thing that I really ever wanted to do. So when I came back, I decided I wanted to get back into training, but I needed to figure out a way to make it a little bit less demanding on myself and possibly make more money. And that's when I started my mobile business. So carried on a mobile business for another 10 years. And I did do some training in my home as well, but that just got to be too much with people coming in and out of my home, and I have animals, and it was just not working. People wearing their shoes in my house and those sorts of things. So little things I didn't know that were going to be an issue became a very big problem. And then the mobile business became, again, a little bit tiring after 10 years. There's little things that get to you. In the summer there's construction, in the winter there's snow, and so you do build a gym in a certain area of Calgary, but I also miss the connection of being on a team or in a team. It was just me by myself in my car and my client, and although I really enjoyed it, and it was far more lucrative doing it that way because I didn't have to pay any of my money, it felt a little bit lonely and isolated at times, and I was really losing touch on the other people in the industry. And so then I never actually thought I would get into online training. Many people would say, why don't you do online training? And I always said no. I was very firm about it. I felt very passionately. I feel there's a lot of online trainers out there that are doing things incorrectly for the money.
100%.
They're providing programs that are not safe, are not effective, are probably been giving out to too many people. It's just, it was a big problem for me. But then as I got older and connected, and through Impact Magazine, through that experience, it was actually an incredible opportunity for me. I was able to connect with some of the people in the industry, like obviously the top people in the industry, and I really admired Impact for taking the time out to really dive down into finding instructors and trainers that A, were educated, or B, were experienced, were providing and giving back to the community. It was like a really good process, and I felt very, very, very honored. And on top of that, I was able to meet other people in the top in Canada. So it was a great opportunity for me, but it also allowed me to connect and learn more about the online industry. Sure. And then, so that's sort of what it hasn't even been a year. I was laying in bed one night and I was thinking, Tish, you are getting older. And although, you will always probably have connection, and I do bootcamp still because I do love the interaction and inspiring and motivating and watching the girls work. It basically gets me into the gym and working hard. Basically those boot camps do that for me.
Right.
So I'm getting a lot out of it. But I did realize that through my following, I could probably connect and help more people and probably do it properly and effectively. So I've connected. I've hired 2 business coaches. Both of them have helped me incredibly well, or a lot. And it's been a lot of work,
Sure.
it was way more work than I actually thought it was going to be, but I've never worked this hard in my entire life. I said to my husband last night, I'm 45 years old and I feel like I'm just starting my career. I guess I kind of am starting a brand new thing, but I'm extremely proud of what I'm providing, and people are getting results and people are happy. And although there's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs, and a lot of heartbreak, and a lot of second guessing. But you learn through your experiences that you don't take those things personally. This is going to make you stronger.
Yeah.
And it's been extremely rewarding. So I'm kind of in the direction now where I no longer train people one-on-one. I do have my Bootcamp girls, and my online presence is growing. And I almost always promised myself and the people who are doing my program that I will never get to a point where it's too big and then I'm no longer able to connect and make people feel like they get my support through it.
For sure.
So that's sort of my passion, and so far it's been going really, really well.
So you said there that you're very proud of what you've achieved. And you have a right to be. From
you.
what I can see from the outside looking in, you've built such a strong support system, such a strong network, strong community. So that's great.
Thank you.
I do want to elaborate on something that you said in that dialogue there. I do want to spend the majority of the time talking about the clients, the end users, the ones at home.
Yes.
But you did talk about personal trainers a little bit.
Yes.
So back in the day when you started, personal trainers were a little bit more of a commodity.
Right.
Whereas today, everybody's a trainer, everybody's an online coach. So in a market, so any market that tends to be saturated like that, there are going to be varying degrees of knowledge, skill, talent.
Absolutely.
So just real quickly, especially with resolutions right around the corner and people having the notion of signing up for a gym, perhaps looking for a trainer or a coach, what advice would you give them in order for them to find a coach or a trainer that matches or suits their needs? Compatibility is huge.
It is. It's funny. I don't necessarily think that a trainer needs to have a kinesiology degree to be a good trainer. There's some great diplomas, certifications that are excellent and are more knowledge than you need. So your question is, how would a client find their trainer?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just because, again, going back to that saturation.
Yes.
People use social media as an indicator of how trained or how knowledge a person is.
Yes.
Or they go to Google.
Yeah.
So those are the two locales that they can find them, right? So how do you determine that she's the one?
Face-to-face versus online. What I've learned about online is people really want to, the most important thing about their coach is that they like and respect them. So if I were to recommend someone that's going to hire someone online, I would say just continue to follow and watch them. Most of the people that join my program have been watching me for months. Some of them have even been following me for years. So by the time they actually go in and invest in my program, they think they know me. They respect me. They know I know my stuff. And it's not even so much the program that I'm offering that's the most important thing to them. What is the most important thing to them? And I don't necessarily think that's a good thing, but why they've bought for me, because there's hundreds and thousands of opportunities for people to pick whoever they wish. It's just that something about that coach is connected with them.
Okay.
Now face-to-face is a little bit different. And I actually always encourage people before they hire online to spend some one-on-one time with a coach, just to get a couple sessions of basic lifts. And that time is going to allow the client to figure out if they like what that person is saying or not. I always used to say to the new trainers, because I became obviously a leader at Talisman Center for many years. And the one thing I would say to them is you have to know that when you're on the gym floor, that you are basically on show. So you are in a theater, like you are the character, and people on the bikes are watching you, and they are trying to figure out whether or not they want to hire you or not. So if you're sitting down, if you pull out your phone, if you're looking around, that person, it will never hire you. At least I would hope not. So you have to conduct yourself on the floor like you are presenting yourself for a future client. So engage in them, you should be interested, but you'd be shocked what I see. It is it's a buyer's market out there. So if you're presenting yourself on the floor with professionalism, with interest, then you have a higher opportunity or higher chance to be busy as a trainer.
Right.
So my biggest thing is just every trainer has a niche and every trainer has a specialty. So take the time and figure out what that trainer's niche and specialties are. Just because a male coach is a male doesn't mean he can't help young women. There's a ton of online male coaches that help a ton of women, and they're excellent. So it doesn't even really matter age, sex. I mean, experience, I think, would probably be the most important thing. And a client also doesn't need to know how much information you know. When I sit on the floor and stretch and listen to a trainer talk to that client about everything they know, the client doesn't care.
No.
Right?
It's about the connection.
Yes.
Right.
And I don't necessarily know if it's because I'm sitting there and I'm listening, and so they want everyone else to know around them how much they know. But clients don't care about that. There has to be a connection, and people need to be authentic. And people will figure that out and pick on that right away. So I just think people need to take their time, maybe instead of paying a huge amount of time or a huge amount of money up front with someone, just start by couple of sessions or maybe a month at a time if it's an online coach, and see if you connect. And if you don't, you need to try someone else. But the experience, I think, is probably the most important thing, not so much education, because even now to this day, I say, yes, I have a kinesiology degree, but it's not that degree that's making me informed and up to date with everything that's new. It's all my research, all the travel that I do, all the conferences that I do. That's what's keeping me up to date on all the current fitness trends, etc. So the biggest thing is just you need to take your time.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't put it all on the trainer is what you're saying. You have to do some due diligence as the person seeking a trainer, right?
Yes.
Making sure that he or she will fit
yes.
what you want.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I can tell right away, just based on everything that you've said and the way that you've answered the questions, there's a lot of passion behind what you do. But more so than that, there is a passion for your clients.
Yes.
So going on that, over your 25 years as a trainer, I'm certain you've seen both successful clients and clients that are not so successful.
Yes.
I want to ask you a question, and I want you to take a moment and think about it a little bit, okay? Is there a common trait or a common habit that the successful clients share that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think human nature is an all or nothing response. This is how we look at life. We're either in or we're out. The people that have success don't have that approach. It has to start with tiny goals, like almost goals that you think you could achieve in a day. I think what happens in the most unsuccessful clients are the ones that have too high of an expectation.
Okay.
And that trainer it's the responsibility of the trainer to educate and inform. So the very first thing that I always say to a potential new client is, I'm going to give you the information and the tools, and we're going to come together to talk about goals, timelines, etc. But ultimately, this does not change your success. What changes your success is whether or not you're willing to do it. And together we have to sit down and talk about those goals and put a time frame on them. I think people have the assumption that as soon as they hire a trainer, they're going to get results. And that's just not the case, especially online, because there's not that face-to-face, that connecting. So managing expectations and the people who come in knowing and have a realistic idea of what their expectations are and decide on goals that are manageable and figure out how to get those first goals accomplished are always the ones that are successful. So I always do this. Clients will have one goal that we talk about. So we talk about one specific thing. It could be a body change thing. It could be getting married in 6 months. And the time is super important. So we talk about what we need to do to get to that goal. And we're very realistic with how much work it's going to involve on my part and theirs, as well as theirs. And then we make sure that it's not too far ahead. So if they're getting married in 6 months, I say we need to come up with a plan or a goal before that.
Sure.
So the people that are the most successful understand that it is up to them, and that there's going to be intrinsic changes before the extrinsic. And so we need to focus and concentrate on all of them. The changes that are helping, that are changing you inside first, also need to be acknowledged and obtained. And this is through journaling. So the people that are the most successful are often people who are journaling and writing down weights, sets, how they're feeling. So then when they're feeling frustrated of the lack of results, they go back to the beginning of their journaling, whether it's the weights that have improved,
sure,
or their mindset is improved, or the energy. I get clients to write down as much information as they possibly can. So when they're feeling frustrated that they still cannot get physically where they are,
I got you. Yep.
then they can go back to those other intrinsic and go, okay, wow, yeah, I actually am stronger, which means if you're stronger, you have more muscle, and chances are you probably are also leaner. So there are body changes. We need to manage expectations, and the client that is the most successful gets that, listens and understands. The people that are unsuccessful usually have too high of an expectation, and their goals are not achievable. And that is the responsibility of the trainer. So the most important thing is for the trainer is to educate and manage the expectations before you even start. And if those are communicated effectively, every client will have success.
Got it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. You said a lot of good things there.
Thank you.
And because you said so many things there, I don't know what to highlight, but a couple of the things that I want to take away here. And it's funny because this point comes up over and over and over again on the show. As human nature, we love to go all in.
Yes.
We don't know how to make it manageable. We don't know how to take it step by step.
Exactly.
The other really good thing that you said there was intrinsic versus extrinsic. I think there are a lot of non-scale victories, if you will, when it comes to exercising, and we tend to only focus on that, right?
Right.
But before you may see the physical changes, it comes in the form of, man, my habits have changed. My mindset around exercise has changed. So I really, really like that.
Thank you.
Now, going back to human nature, we, as a people, we have a lot of self-limiting beliefs.
Yes.
So when it comes to exercise, when it comes to working out, health, what have you, we are self-limiting in the way of our body.
Yes.
Is my body capable of this?
Mm-hmm.
So for somebody who has yet to step into this journey, what is a piece of advice that you can give them to start switching that mindset into something more like, you know what, my body is capable of this?
Right. You need to hire a trainer. People especially because our human nature is okay, fine. I'm tired of how I feel. I'm tired of how I look. I'm going to the gym. And before you know it, you're injured, or again, you haven't managed your expectations and you quit. And there's this vicious circle. So my recommendation is to always hire a professional. And again, take your time, do your due diligence, and make sure that you've hired someone that's going to support and help you. And I'm not talking long term. This does not have to be someone that you spend thousands of dollars on. A couple of sessions just to learn where you are, what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, communicate what some of those goals are that we spoke about, and then let that trainer help you, show you what you're capable of. They were going to write a program for you, and then you are good to go on your own. But that program is going to provide you with some structure, a plan, and confidence that at the end of it, you're going to get results as long as you do it. So my number one recommendation is to always hire a professional to show you what you're capable of. And then if you've hired a good coach, that coach will say, here's your program. This is what you can do. You're going to get results if you do it. And then just the support as you need it. If you need to see that person once a week for a couple of months or once every other week, it's really going to be individual. But I really think that the support of having someone or a partner, a workout partner has been in the industry or has the experience to guide you and support you. Workout buddies are extremely helpful because there's going to be days where you're in the mood and your workout buddy isn't, and you'll pull each other in. So the biggest thing though is like, how will you know what your expectations are, what your body is capable of, unless you have spent some time with someone who can help you decide from there? And then you have the confidence to go in and do what you need to do. And I think a lot of times people feel they have to do more than they really, really need to. And so it's actually refreshing to go, wow, I actually only have to do this three times a week and for this long. And so I think it just gives people the permission not to go full at it, and just have some more structure to it.
So it's just the confidence, the delivery of not just knowledge, but also an accountability, motivation.
Absolutely.
There's a lot more to it than just the knowledge.
For sure. Yeah.
Now I'm going to go back to something you said in your intro. When you first walked into the then Lindsay Park,
yes,
you were captivated by the environment, the
yes.
atmosphere, the people there.
Yes.
Now, in my experience with clients, and I'm sure with yours as well, not everybody shares that sentiment. A lot of people loathe the gym, or they fear the gym,
yes.
or they don't like the smell, so forth. How do you overcome that barrier?
I mean, the gym is there to protect us and to support us. It's a safe environment. I understand that it is an intimidating thing. I get this. I hear this all the time.
Right.
And you don't have to be in a gym. There's a ton of people who are building small little gyms in their homes. And that's great. But for me, I like the energy of people. I feed off of it. So I always first tell my clients that the gym is there to protect them, to support them. There's people, there's professionals there. The squat racks are in there to make sure you're doing things safely. There's machines in there that are specifically built so you don't hurt yourself. There are weight room attendants around to spot you and to make sure that you're supported. And at the end of the day, no one cares. Everyone is there for themselves. Although I have to be honest, when I would go to the gym when I was young, I used to go just for the boys. But for the most part, people are so into their own world. Now we all have our headphones on. People don't pay attention to anything that's going on around them anymore. So I think we need to I always just encourage people to just try it once. Just to take a step in, and give an energy that you're confident and that you know your way around the gym. And I talk to a lot of my clients about this because obviously they're going into the gyms all by themselves. And I just say, you've got me in your back pocket. Turn on the app. I'm right there with you. You've got the support. You've got the knowledge. You don't need to second guess anything about the program or what you're doing. and then give your energy. And you're entitled to be in there just like anyone else. So don't let anyone intimidate you or bully you. So if you ask someone if you can work in with them and they give you a hard time about it, don't let them do that. Working in is something that is important and happens all the time. And I do understand that people can be, a little bit rude. I experienced it myself a couple of weeks ago. I was actually shocked. But weight room etiquette, for the most part, is awesome. We just need to hold ourselves with confidence and give off an energy that we know what we're doing, because eventually, after probably session 2 even, you will have no problems going in. And the other thing that's great is a lot of these gyms now have women-only spaces. And a lot of women actually go to the women-only spaces for a very short amount of time. It's just to kind of get their bearings and get comfortable. And then before you know it, they're in the other part amongst everyone. And honestly, it's some of the best people I've ever met are in the gym. So these are people that are like you. These are people that are wanting to be better. They're looking to feel better. They're looking for more confidence in their life. We're all there for the exact same reason. And so you just need to go in knowing that these are probably the happiest people in the whole city. It's shocking to me that there's only, this is our life. We love fitness.
Right.
But there's so many people out there that absolutely do not do anything.
Yeah.
So when you go into a space where you're sharing the same energy, it's only going to be welcoming.
I really like that you went there when you said when you talked about women specifically, for the reason that a large part of our audience are women.
Right.
So let's talk about women. A lot of clients, a lot of people, whether it's with fitness or otherwise, they are unsuccessful with what they're trying to do because they are following myths or things that are misrepresented, misinformation. Now, again, talking about women, what would be at the top of that list for you of myths that may be contributing to the reason why they're not so successful, even though they have tried to prioritize fitness and it just didn't work out because of this belief?
I think we're getting better with this myth, but we're still really struggling because I still hear a lot of women say
I think I know what it is. I'm not going to say it, but go ahead.
That lifting weights is going to make you look bulky.
Knew it.
Wow, you're good. And that could not be further from the truth. In fact, the more muscle you have, the less fat you have, the smaller you are. And it is shocking to me that I'm still hearing even yesterday, I had a girl say, when I was bodybuilding, I couldn't get my jeans on because my quads were building. That is literally impossible. I don't exactly know the story behind her, what that was. I didn't ask because I didn't really want to get into that conversation, but it is, actually impossible for women. It is extremely difficult for women to build muscle. If we're putting on 0.5 pounds of muscle a month, we are lucky. And we also lose it very, very quickly. So my argument is if you don't like the muscle you're putting on, stop lifting for a couple of weeks and it will go away.
Yeah.
But it is impossible for us to be big and bulky. It's not muscle that's doing that. In fact, I have spent many years going through different phases of training. And this is because my experiences, I'm very comfortable talking about this through my own experiences. And of course, all my clients that I've trained, the moments and the times where I spent the most time in the gym lifting are the times that I was the smallest. And the times where I was training for, say, a marathon or something where my lifting had to be put off to the side, I was not as small. So it's just through my own experiences plus my education that I know it is how impossible and how difficult it is for us to build muscle. A lot of these women that you see on social media that are really, really big, most of those women are not natural. It is very difficult to obtain that kind of physique in a natural way. So I'm just trying to be honest. I've put in I started lifting when I was 17 very seriously. And of course, I've gone through phases of no lifting. I'm now 45 years old.
28 years.
Thank you. Yeah. So thank you. I'm really bad at math. So I appreciate you doing the math for me. I forgot my train of thought. But anyways, all I know is through my years of lifting, the times where I've spent the days diligently doing my lifts and getting those in every week are the times I'm the happiest with my physique.
Yeah.
And of course, it's all nutrition. So I always say we always forget the most important aspect, which is the nutrition. And so girls, you cannot get bulky lifting. I'm telling you that right now. It is a myth. It is impossible. And there's so many other reasons and important reasons why we lift. But when we're young, we focus on, of course, the extrinsic factors. But that is the biggest misconception. And I think it is helping because there are so many admired, famous fitness people now that are, of course, in the gym lifting this, and women are like, wow, that is amazing. And then they put their clothes on and look like normal human beings. They don't look like right? So I think that is really helping as well. The women are now seeing what it actually takes to build that kind of physique, and they want to achieve that. So I think it is getting better, but we still have a long way to go.
And you know what's funny about that myth is when you look at their counterparts, so men.
Yes.
Do you know how many men aspire to get bulky?
Yeah.
And they put in that work and they just don't get there?
Yes, of course.
I mean, to get bulky requires very intentional work.
It does.
You have to be lifting a lot of weights.
Yes.
You have to be eating correct, as you suggested. You don't just go from nothing to bulky overnight.
No.
Very, very progressive, right?
It is.
But it's something that we certainly don't understand.
We don't understand
at large.
Yes.
So let's go back to those resolutions.
Yes.
It's very much right around the corner.
Yeah.
So many of the viewers may not be ready to go all in and get the trainer for whatsoever reason. Maybe it's money. Maybe, time is a huge barrier for a lot of people.
Yes.
So the notion of driving to the gym, what have you,
yes.
or finding a babysitter is just not feasible at the moment.
Right.
What are things that they can do at home to start that journey?
I mean, this is someone that's basically an inactive person. Yes?
Inactive or maybe previously active.
Okay. And just wanting to get back into it.
Right.
I mean, the best thing about YouTube and social media is that there's so much free information. There's a ton of free workouts, at-home workouts that people can do every single day. And there's actually a ton that are 15, 20 minutes long, and they're free. You don't actually even have to, I offer them as something to like captivate people, inspire people, get people moving. And then the other thing is don't, again, take the attitude of all or nothing out of it. Instead of thinking short term, like we want results right now, think about what, and I'm not sure if you're going to touch upon this, but one of the biggest things I really want to talk about is the fact that people don't think about the future, and they think about the now.
Was there? Yeah.
Yeah. Were you?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that was my biggest, like, question number one that you kind of had on your thing. I have some really good, valuable information about how to inspire people and to get people thinking more long term. But I really think that people also need to understand that this all or nothing approach to fitness is not attainable for life. So pick a baby goal and say, okay, I am not active right now, but I'm going to commit to 3 times a week in my home for 20 minutes. And the accessibility and the information out there is easy to obtain.
Right.
It costs nothing. And then write that goal down and put it somewhere where you're reminded of it every single day. There is a lot of research that out there that actually says that when you can see your goal written out, you obtain it. Like, I don't know the percentage, but you obtain it so much easier because it's like a constant reminder. And then when you have accomplished that 3 times a week for 50 minutes, you take away that one, or you check it off and you write yourself a new goal. You start with one goal. And once you've...
Not 10, not 100, just
exactly. One goal. And once you've obtained that goal, you move on to the other one. And it doesn't matter if it takes you 6 months or 2 years to obtain that goal. You're still working on achieving that one thing. And it is not until you've mastered that one goal that you move on to the other. And basically, what happens organically is everything just naturally falls into place. Health, you do not need someone to tell you what you need to do to be healthy. We all know that. This is not rocket science. What we need is our own intention. And so instead of being bombarded with 10 things that we need to do, focus on one, and organically, they start checking off. Without you even acknowledging it or noticing it, changes organically happen. Mostly because of how we're feeling intrinsically. We have a better attitude. We're happier spouses. We're more supportive. We're more confident. Because of our confidence, we're nicer to people. We're better. We're those sorts of things that are, in my opinion, the most important things. But because we're so fixated on the outside and what we look like, we forget about those things. But once people, I call it the shift. Once people start feeling this different energy about them, it comes from inside, their brain shifts. And that's after ticking off 2 or 3 goals, maybe not even 2, maybe even 1. And once that brain shifts, you never go back.
I really like that.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a little bit of a common theme here.
Yeah.
Take one step.
Okay.
Pick one thing.
Exactly.
Really, really small and manageable. I like that a lot.
Yes.
We're going to, I want to really simplify this, really break this down.
Okay.
I want you to pick 5 things for this next question.
Okay.
Just 5 things.
Okay.
We have a lot of aesthetic goals when it comes to fitness, exercise. You've already, kind of alluded to that, whether it's just lose weight or getting a 6-pack. I know this is kind of a simple question, but I want your top 5 things. What are the top 5 reasons outside of aesthetics for somebody to start that journey?
So obviously confidence. When you know that you're taking care of yourself, that is nothing, nothing and no one can take that away from you.
Great.
Right?
Yep.
So confidence.
Yep.
I mean, I had a little interview with Sheldon Kennedy. I've trained him for several years, and we talked about the mental wellness.
Okay.
So mental wellness is huge. And I guess that kind of has something to do with confidence as well. It's kind of like all in one. And so you don't want any physical, no physical, just outside.
You can.
No, I don't. Hey, I can easily say 5 non-physical because to me, those are the ones that are the most important. So confidence, your mental wellness. I hear in my years of training, success in relationships.
Okay.
And that's like your career and your relationship at home, whether that's, or even your friendships. And I guess that would tie back into confidence. When you're feeling confident, everything else, your approach to everything else is going to be more optimistic. You're going to have more energy. So I guess that would be 4 is energy. People who are inactive and don't take care of themselves have no idea what feeling good feels like. It's shocking to me.
Right.
They have no idea. So when you start taking better care of yourself, your energy is, you are able to accomplish more in a day because you don't have those lulls and the sluggishness of the day from being inactive. So you're much more productive. You have more energy. And then the last thing would probably just be sleeping. I mean, for me, getting to be, I haven't had any signs of any premenopause or anything like that. I'm very lucky. But a lot of women in their 40s are having issues with hormonal changes. And I have experienced a lot of women in their 50s and 60s as well. And sleep becomes a huge issue. I find that when people start working and using their bodies more and putting themselves through physical workouts, their sleep improves. And sleep, we underestimate the importance of sleep. It is one of the most important things for wellness. And the number one thing people say is that they're sleeping better, which is huge.
I love that.
Awesome.
Now, I do want to clarify, I'm not suggesting that it's not okay to have aesthetic goals.
Right.
But it is also great to have non-aesthetic goals.
Absolutely.
And,
yes.
and just to summarize, that was confidence,
yes,
mental health, more energy, better sleep, and the kicker was improved relationships.
Yes.
I love that.
Awesome.
I love
Thank
that a
you.
lot. Now, I want to go back to what you were asking earlier. I was going to go to the long-term benefits. I know one of your philosophies is, training actually never stops.
Yes.
It is a lifelong
I like
term.
that you did your homework about me.
Of course
Thank
I did.
you.
It is my job to bring out the best in you because
Thank
you have
you.
so much knowledge to offer.
I appreciate
And
that.
I would really be robbing both you and the audience if I didn't do my research.
Thank you.
So what are your thoughts on what you do today and its long-term effects?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I'd love to tell a story about this. I have about 6 or 7 years ago, I was training 10 elderly people. And there was probably out of the 10, and the reason why, you're probably wondering why 10. If training is all word of mouth. If you do a good job, they tell their friend, and then before you know it, you're training all their friends. This is what happens. So, social media never even existed 20 years ago. I was busy because people spoke highly of me, and before you know it, my schedule was full.
Yeah.
And that's how I become to train so many of the elderly, is because they're like, oh my goodness, who are you training with? And before you know it, I was training 10 ladies, all in their 70s and 80s. And I would say that about 6 or 7 of them had been active their whole life. And then there was about 2 or 3 that basically, maybe even 4, that had never spent any time investing in physical fitness in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And now we're feeling, obviously, the effects from that. And we're desperately trying to have someone help them. And so the difference between seeing my clients in their 70s and 80s who had been taking care of themselves and been spending time in the gym, keeping their bodies strong, and that is so important. I really have there's a difference between exercise and training. And when we train and we're building our bodies through a potential threshold, we're building our bodies longer term. So some of these women were still running every other stair with me in their 80s, keeping up with me. Yes.
Great.
And then there was the 4 that had basically hired me because they were in walkers and house-ridden. We're all going to get old. We are all our bodies are going to slow down, and it's just going to happen. But how we choose to live those years is going to be up to us now. And we don't think about those things. And it wasn't until I trained those ladies that I was like, oh my gosh, it was the biggest eye-opening experience of my career. And this only happened 6 or 7 years ago. And what it made me realize is I was so thankful that I had spent the time in the gym as often as I did. Now, I don't want to say it's too late if you are in your 40s and you're not starting, but you got to start doing it now. Because when I saw the difference between someone who had made the conscious decision to want to live a good life in their 60s, 70s, and 80s versus the person who didn't. And it was a huge experience. I actually would come home from some of those sessions being almost depressed, because it's such a sad existence to need help to get out of bed, to get off the toilet. We're all going there. And in fact, I had a conversation with 2 women 2 days ago, I was showing them a workout video. So I was encouraging them to join my free challenge. And they were like, oh my God, your body is amazing. And I said, girls, you don't need to worry about that. You need to start moving. And they said to me, oh, we don't have time. And I said, you need to give yourself the time. 15, 20 minutes a day, not even every day. You need to do it, because in 25 years, if you don't start now, the quality of your life is going to suffer. And they said to me, that's 25 years away. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
We don't think about it. And I'll be completely honest, I didn't actually even think about it until I actually saw it with my own eyes and saw the difference between someone's quality of life versus, and it is hard when you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s to think about, but eventually we're getting there. So I always say that even if your life is, not as healthy as it should be, in terms of going out and drinking and eating pizza, I did that in my 20s and 30s. In fact, I always say to my clients that are in their 30s and 40s are actually physically more appealing, like they look better because their lifestyle's changed.
Right.
You go through phases in your life in your 20s, as I did. I'm much more physically attractive, my body, in my 40s now than I was in my 20s, because I was a 20-year-old. I went out, I had my drinks, I went to pizza at 2:00. I lived the way I wanted to, but what I never stopped doing was go to the gym. I always invested my time in my gym, the time in the gym. And so even if you're not doing exactly what you should lifestyle-wise, because those lifestyle challenges are the ones that are going to be the hardest ones to tackle and obtain. But if you can get to the gym and get your lifts in and actually take care of yourself, even during those times where you're maybe not making the best choices, and that's called life, you will be so much more thankful in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s that you did.
That's great. And the key word there really is invest, right?
Yes.
And it's no different than your finances.
Yes.
In this case, it may not necessarily be investing money per se. It's just investing time, investing energy, investing the thought into it.
100%.
Having that long-term vision is such a great, it's just a great tool to have in our back pocket.
It is.
One of the things that I like to say is, unfortunately, as humans, we are more reactive than we are proactive.
Yes.
But as much as you can, get ahead of these things. And in this case, your health, it's never too late to start. But unfortunately, once you start that decline, it's really hard to get it back.
It is.
So get ahead of it.
Yeah, and honestly, you're going to have periods in your life where you're not able to work out. You may you may have a job that's just really taking its toll on you. You may have someone in your life that's sick, or you might get sick, and that's okay. I think we tend to be very hard on ourselves, and we tend to say, "Oh, forget it. I've taken 2 months off. I may as well just." Everything that you have contributed to your wellness in the past is contributing to your wellness in the future. So even if you have to take some time off, it's okay. Don't cut yourself some slack. Just get back on that healthy train, and your body responds. It has memory, and it responds to what you did a few years ago, and it's always obtainable and achievable to get back where you were. People get so disappointed in themselves, and instead of getting disappointed with yourselves, just move on from it. Move on.
Yeah,
right?
It just goes back to managing expectations, right?
Exactly. Yes, I could go on and on and on. I'm not going to.
No, those were just beautiful answers.
Thank you.
I love your passion for the craft.
Thank you.
I love your passion for the people, your clients, and let's talk a little bit more about you. Okay, let's pull back from all of this. I know you're launching your online coaching. What else is on the horizon for you? It could be nothing else. It could be just the online coaching. What are a few things that you're up to?
I'll be honest. My online stuff has been over consuming me. It's like the only thing that I have, I've been basically eat, sleep. It has been something that I have. When I dive into something, I dive in, and I have really invested so much time and money into it that it really has been my number one priority. I have a great husband and 3 fur kids, and we have like some really fun trips coming up. We're going to
Great.
Japan,
Ooh.
skiing. My
Yes.
husband turns 40. I'm older than him. He turns 40 this year, so we're going to celebrate in Japan. He's a big skier. And just really making sure that my business is running. I never thought I would, at this point in my life and my career, be so keen and passionate about starting something new, but it's just like lit a fire underneath me, and I'm just super excited about it.
I can see the sparkle, the twinkle in your eye
Aw,
when you talk
thanks.
about it, right? Because that is what passion is.
Yes.
Right? You said you are in a state where you eat, sleep, and you are all in whenever
Yeah.
you're awake. That's what passion is.
That's
right?
true.
That
Yeah.
is amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is our marquee question.
Oh.
Okay, so when an individual, we're talking about our clients here, when an individual is living an evolved life, what does that look like? And I want to correct myself. It doesn't have to be the client. We're just talking about people in general now. What does it mean when a person is living an evolved life?
I think when you stop competing and comparing yourself to someone, and you're just happy in your own skin. You get up in the morning and there's a positive thought, right? It might even be 5 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock, and it's Calgary and it's dark and it's snowing, but you still are positive because you're so excited about the things that you're doing in your life, and you have optimism for what you're going to be doing in that day. And then you just kill the day every single day. And if you have a bad day, as we all do, you're able to mentally, check out and just take it for what it is. We all have those days where we're second guessing ourselves, or someone who's hurt our feelings, but we're able to mentally just say, okay, this is a bad day. Tomorrow will be better. And that we also cut ourselves some slack. Quit being so hard on ourselves, and that we always take a few minutes just to do something for ourselves. And I think that is the biggest problem, is people don't take that time for themselves. And that is one thing that I've really struggled with as well. But I have to say that I can only give my energy and my energy, I guess, when I give myself that time. So my time is my gym. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm at the gym lifting. Sometimes it's in my basement stretching, or it's, me getting in my steps, but it's always an hour a day of something that I want to do, with no connections, no phone, no interactions, nothing. And I think that really has provided, or will provide, people with the ability to give more of themselves, but we just don't do it. So I just think, like, getting up in the morning, having a fulfilling day, conquering it, obtaining the goals, doing something for yourself every single day, and having that optimistic, positive attitude. For me, it's like we choose how we want to approach the day. And when we're an evolved person, our attitudes and our choices become so much easier to just be positive.
What a brilliant answer.
Oh, thanks.
Tish, that was amazing. And
Thank
like I said
you.
at the beginning, there were so many different directions we could have taken this.
Yes.
And with respect to that, I would love to have you back on the show
Oh,
to talk
wow.
about other topics as well.
I'd love that.
That is great.
Yeah.
So we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
I know I learned a lot. I know they learned a lot. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was so much fun.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd recommend that you subscribe to our channel at Evolution VN, and you can do so below. Each week, we'll be releasing a new information-packed interview, which will simplify your health and fitness and help you maximize your life. So, subscribe below to be notified whenever a new video is released. Until then, live an evolved life.